Yeah, we've been talking about some heavy subjects. We've been talking about intention creating, and we've been talking about present moment. And there are subjects that you really need to wrap your brain around. And for me, dowsing is kind of an escape from that. It's kind of a fun thing. You can use intention setting and present moment to do dowsing. Certainly, it's a big part of it. Uh, but I just wanted to know from you guys, how many of you douse now or are familiar with Kevin? Do you? Terrie, you do? Paula? Okay, so Terrie, how do you douse? What do you use it for?
It's definitely something I'm more familiar with. um, it's I've used it in the past to answer questions and things, and I also really just like collecting pendulums.
I know they're so beautiful. I'll show you some of mine too. Thank you for showing me that. Paula, what do you use yours for?
Mostly answering questions. My questions, not necessarily for somebody else, but yeah, I have a collection of pendulums too.
Oh, beautiful.
Not that I could find one this morning. I had to make this one. But yeah, it's mostly
We'll talk about being able to find them in a minute. How about you,
yes,
Kev? What do you use yours for?
Politics.
Oh, don't.
I'm
Oh,
a
you said the P
political
word.
junko. And so I don't do personal readings. All my readings are done in around politics, and so that's what all does about.
Nice. Very nice. So, of course, I have one of my famous slideshows prepared, but before I put it up, um, to talk about dowsing, I think dowsing was a big thing back in the 90s, back in kind of the heyday of everybody starting to open up and starting to realize more spiritual things. And I think now it's become kind of adopted by the Wiccan crowd, which is not a bad thing at all. But I think it went out of mainstream. But now it's come back, I think, in my mind, a little bit back into mainstream. And I have been a member of the American Society for Dowsers, ASD, for a while now. And it's so funny, but you see, online on YouTube, all these young people doing all this dowsing like it's something new. And then you go to ASD and it's like people in their 90s dowsing because they've been doing it their whole lives. And the thing about dowsing is it's been around since ancient times. There's apparently, I haven't seen them, but cave walls that show people dowsing, looking for minerals, looking for water, looking for food. So we're not going to do anything quite that basic today. We're going to be just exploring dowsing. We're going to start dowsing. And before I get too far into it, let me share my screen and put up my PowerPoint.
1 second, I have to give you permission.
Oh, please, Mother, may I share my screen?
Yes, of course.
Okay, there it is. And here this is.
We're not seeing it. Oh, here it comes.
Yeah, do you see it now?
Yeah, we do.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay. So how many of you are familiar with Letter to Robin? I know I sent it to you, but you hadn't seen it before. Okay.
No.
So what Letter to Robin did, we'll talk about it a little bit, but what it did for me was my dowsing was always hit or miss. And I didn't really know what it was. I mean, I could make it say yes, I could make it say no, and we'll work on that in a second. But to ask the question, it was always kind of hit or miss. And Letter to Robin kind of put that into perspective for me. Now, this was written by a member of the American Society for Dowsers, Walt, his name is on this, but it was written in the 90s. It's been revised multiple times. I think the edition that you have is the 2001 edition. And it explains dowsing soup to nuts, but there's so much in there. It's difficult to unpack by yourself. So I just wanted to point out a few of hopefully you all have a copy of it, but I just want to point out a few of the important things in my mind about it. So let's go to the next one. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk a little bit about what is dowsing, the tools that you can use. Everybody gets to show theirs off. How does dowsing work? We don't really know, but there's a theory. Getting to the heart of dowsing. Now, they used to call that programming. And I can honestly tell you, when I first heard that term in the 90s about programming dowsing, it really put me off it a little bit because of the connotations of programming. But it's not, what you're doing is just defining things. And we'll talk about that in a moment. And then you got to practice. You just have to practice to get good at it. And 5 or 10 minutes a day will do that. There's some dowsing tips, and then we'll have time for questions. So what is dowsing? So as we talked about a little bit before, I'm just moving your faces because I can't see my slide. Dowsing is the ancient art of finding objects, water, minerals, lost people, and places. Now you've heard some of the uses of dowsing, but I can tell you some ways that I use it is when we look for missing people. You know, if when we remote view missing people, we'll always try to find out where they are on the map, and we use dowsing for that. Recognizing energy. I don't know if any of you have heard of Raymond Grace. He's a very famous dowser in the Southeast who he's kind of an old-timey dowser, and he actually claims to be able to change the energy of water, to do depossessions, to help heal people with dowsing. And I've got a book of his in electrons that if we get more into this, I can send you later on, but I don't want to overwhelm you at this point. So you can recognize energy. You can recognize if there's an outside influence influencing you, like maybe some negative thoughts coming your way or something like that, depending on your belief system. Magnetic energy and electromagnetic energy, you can actually dowse your rooms, your television, various things to find out what kind of energy is coming off them, and then you can dowse yourself to see if that energy is affecting you. And then, as we all know, we live in a big soup of energy, and energy is information. So you can use dowsing to obtain information that your conscious might not know, but your subconscious does. And it's all done using the subconscious mind, as we said below. So, and it's much like for those of you who are mediums, for those of you who are psychics, there's a big difference between our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. We use our subconscious mind to get into the quantum realm, to talk to spirit, and then we use our conscious mind to decode a little bit. But the more you can stay with dowsing, the more you can stay in your subconscious mind, the better your answers are going to be. Let's see. So dowsing tools, here's where we get to the cool part. So there's lots of different dowsing tools that you can use depending on the situation. And there's lots of different ways to use the tools you have. Like here is one that I made back in Phoenix when I first started dowsing, because I could use it outside. It's a heavy washer on just a piece of raffia. It doesn't really matter. But it, I can ask it things when I'm outside and get a yes or no. I haven't tried to use it with direction, although I think it would work. I just haven't tried it. The other tools I have, I mean, some people, I like copper pieces, and you can see those are all copper pieces. But if you're going to buy one, if you can get one with a witness chamber, which is just a little hole inside here where you can put, if you're looking for a person, a piece of clothing or hair. If you're looking for water, you can put water in there. If you want to, whatever it is you want to do, you can put it, it's called a witness in there. Close this up and then douse with the witness. So this is more for finding things, but I think it's also maybe for bringing things to you. I haven't really played with that part of it that much, but my thought was, if you wanted to bring health, you could put something in there representative of health and then work with that. Or if you wanted to bring abundance, something representative of abundance and work with that. So there's lots of things you can do with a witness. So think about that. And this, by the way, is an Isis. Supposedly, it's got the 7 coils of Isis with a crooked crystal, but it works really great. So that's that one. And then here's another crystal one with an amethyst on top. I really like the balanced crystals. I really like the crystals because I think that they are better at picking up energy. let's see, let me get them out of the blur. There we go. I think they're better at picking up energy. But it's really all about your preference. And this is the coolest one. I have to get it. This is a cool one. This is a spiral, and I use this for chakra alignments because it's a spiral. As you can see, it just wants to turn. This one just wants to turn. So it's all about what you have. Now I wanted to show you. I just dropped it. There we go. Okay, back. So a lot of people use two of these rods, but you can use, I use one, and it gives me not only direction, but I can ask it things like, let's see, how long have I lived in this house? And it'll, spin the number of times around is the number of years. I can ask it, show me yes, and it'll spin once it gets going. It'll spin clockwise for yes, and then it'll spin counterclockwise for no. And it still gives me direction. So unless you're looking for a particular point, I think one is way easier to manage of these than two. But again, it's all preference. This one has a coil on it. Can you see the coil? It's on my forehead now. But it's got a series of coils. It's copper with a wooden handle. So they come in all different shapes and sizes and all different ways to use them. You just have to find out what works for you. Now, there are people who have a lot of mythology around their pendulums. They'll tell you you have to put them out in the full moon to cleanse them. Some people say put them in salt, but I'm always leery about metals and salt because I think that salt is corrosive. Some people will tell you to anoint them with oils to clear them. I think sometimes the mythology trips us up and gives us an excuse for failure. So I think that, we can clear it with our intentions, and we're going to be setting intentions here in a minute. But, we can clear it with intentions, and I think crystals are pretty responsive these days, at least, to what we ask them to do. So one thing I do when I get a new pendulum is I keep it on my person, on my body, in a pocket, or just near me for the first few days when I first get it, just so that it adapts to my energy and I adapt to it. But again, that's probably another myth. It just is up to whatever works for you. Some people believe, they make those beautiful wooden ones. Some people believe that the wooden ones are more responsive because they were once alive, and others believe that the wooden ones are too susceptible to outside influence because they're so light. So it really just depends, on your own personal preferences and your own personal beliefs around pendulums. But I can tell you, having used the one that I made out of a washer and some raffia, anything will work. And Paula held up her necklace with the crystal on it. As long as you intend it to be a pendulum and ask it questions and intend it to answer, then it's going to work. So how does it work? Nobody actually knows how dowsing actually works. Nobody can give you the formula, or nobody can tell you where it comes from. There's a belief, though, that our intent to do good, coupled with the energy and information that surrounds all of us, and if we're going to program it, which is to give it specific definitions to make it more accurate. If we can step out of the conscious mind, and if we practice, then that's about all we need. So the theory is that dowsing is the information that's available to our subconscious mind all the time. There's actually been studies done that there's like 4 million plus inputs at any one given moment into our subconscious mind. And we only consciously can process the most important 7 of those. and that's our survival instinct. We're always scanning the environment for, is it too hot? Is it too cold? Am I comfortable? Am I in danger? Am I hungry? Is there something else that I should be giving my attention to? Those are all of the 7 plus or minus 4 things that we can focus on at any one given time. And it's not until we slip into our subconscious, which has been focusing on everything all around us all the time, that we can get this information. So that is the theory, at least, about how dowsing works. So I changed programming a little bit from programming to getting to the heart of it. So we're going to program, if you have Letter to Robin handy, and you want to just take a minute and pull it up if you can. Is that going to be a problem for anyone?
The link is in the chat for anybody that doesn't have it handy.
What was that again? I was reading the thing. I
Two.
missed.
Please repeat.
Sure, no problem. Letter to Robin, the little pamphlet that was sent out, the one we talked about in the beginning.
The link is in the chat.
Oh,
Yeah, just
are we to read it?
well, if you just pull it up, we could follow along with it.
Okay,
And we're
okay.
gonna, with your permission, we'll do a programming, just the basic programming for your. We're not really programming the pendulum. We're programming your subconscious to understand what you're asking.
Okay,
So,
okay. Open
mhm.
new link. Okay, there we go.
Perfect. Okay, just let me know when you got it up. I'm going to look for mine real quick. There we go. All right. So first of all, the way that you hold a pendulum, for those who don't know, I used to hold mine from the top, but I was corrected in a class I took. And essentially, you're supposed to hold it maybe 2 to 3 inches from the pendulum itself because it's much more responsive. So if you take your pendulum and just hold it in front of you and ask it, pendulum, show me yes, and see what it does. Excuse me. Has everybody got a pretty good yes going?
Yep.
Okay. It could be spinning clockwise. It sometimes for people it'll just go left to right for yes. But it's always pretty much, sometimes I guess it can go counterclockwise for yes. You just have to find out how the pendulum is going to work with your energy. But in this case, let's presume, does anybody get a counterclockwise spin rotation?
No.
No,
Okay.
instead of back and forth.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly the same thing. And yours actually, Paula, is good for charts. We'll talk about charts later.
Okay.
Okay, so now
Thank you.
there's a theory that if you set it down, press the tip down on the table to clear that energy. Again, it's another theory. I don't use it, but some people think that it helps them. So I want you to know about it. So get it going just a little bit and then ask it to show you no. Pendulum, show me no.
Show me.
I think I'm going to have to zoom out. I've lost you folks. And I have no idea how to get you back.
We've got you, Kev. Can you hear us?
Oh, I can hear you. I just can't see anything.
Look at the icons at the bottom of your screen, and there should be a Zoom one. It's blue.
Yeah, and
blue
I
square with
click
Zoom?
it and I get Zoom Workplace and Zoom Workplace,
Oh, really?
the login.
Interesting.
Just a second.
Mhm.
You might have opened it in a browser, Kevin, so it might be on
Well,
your
I'm just
browser.
going into my browser now. and it's not open. Let me check history.
Can you alt tab, Kevin, to see if it's on another screen?
Perfect.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Just hit alt tab, tab.
Oh.
It should go through all your screens.
I'll just take it. Okay. Oh,
You gotta hold the alt down while you tab.
yeah. No image of the people.
Oh, okay. So now, but you see, but you see the slides?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, just a second. Let me do that again. I'm sorry for being a total idiot.
No.
Okay, I think I found your slide.
Okay. Now, if you look at this slide, there should be some dots on the top. I mean, is there any kind of zoom, anything around there on the slide?
Now, yes, I'm back. Okay. It had miniaturized. Sorry about that.
Not at all. But so
Okay.
that's okay. Just get your pendulum and let's ask it when, and I forgot to tell you this, but for those of you who haven't used pendulums, if you just get them going in kind of a back and forth motion before you ask it to do something, that kind of breaks the inertia and makes it easier to respond. So if you just get it going back and forth and now ask it to show you no
Yeah.
and see what it does.
Okay, it's going now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Paula, I'm guessing what's yours doing?
Mine's going left to right.
Good. Okay. And everybody else is probably going clockwise based on their first yes. Okay. Perfect.
I'm going left to right also,
Oh, good. Okay.
back
That's
and forth.
Yeah, that's perfect for again, that's good for chart work, and we'll talk about it in a minute. So before you address the dowsing system, and the dowsing system is really your pendulum or your whatever you're using as an instrument in your subconscious. It's always a good idea, or they've set this up, that you ask, may I, can I, and in the book it says, should I? May I, can I, should I ask about whatever you're going to ask about? And the should I, there's been a movement to change the should I to is it appropriate to? And I think it's more appropriate to use appropriate to, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Let me tab here. Because when you're asking it, may I, you're asking it if you're in a good state to douse. Is everything okay with you? Is there something bothering you? Are you going to, are you in an appropriate place to douse? And do you have permission then to proceed and be involved? Can I means, do you have the ability to successfully douse in the particular area you're going to ask about? And are you ready to douse? And then what they say should I means is considering all aspects related to the situation, is it appropriate, proper, and suitable to douse this area? So, again, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. But to me, we can use, I use appropriate. So that's what I'm going to be saying. If you want to say should instead, that's up to you. So with your pendulum just swinging up and down, you can ask it, may I, can I, is it appropriate to ask questions about me? And let's see what it does.
Ask questions about me.
Mm-hmm. Assuming everybody got a yes,
Yeah.
we can. Did you count?
My pendulum tells me when it's ready for a question.
Okay. Oh, okay. This is a little bit different. Like, are you talking about the ready position where it's swinging back and forth? That's the
Mine
ready.
goes in circles. I'll ask it if it's ready for a question, and then it spins in circles and tells me it is, and then I asked it the question,
Okay,
and
So-
then I got a yes or no.
okay. That's a pretty succinct way of doing it. So we can ask the pendulum if you're a female, ask if you're a male. If you're a male, ask if you're a female. So, am I or a man or woman? Am I a man?
Am I a man?
Good to know. No.
I guess that's could be a confusing question, but I gotta know.
Mine went dead still.
So yours isn't sure.
Well, other people aren't either.
I gotta know.
I gotta know.
Okay. Now, ask the pendulum if your name is whatever your name is. It's my name, Terrie.
Is my name Laura? Got a yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you're so far so good. So now let's just test it one more time and let's ask it, do I live in Brooklyn, New York?
Do I live in Brooklyn, New York? Gotta know.
Gotta know.
Okay. So I think we have enough, at least for right now, to go ahead and do the first program. And that's why I asked you to get your letter to Robin, because it's on page 4 and it's pretty lengthy. But we will go through the steps, and then if you want, you can mute or whatever and do the program, the wording part of it yourself. So if you look on like I said, page 4 of letter to Robin, you'll see a section in a block. And these are just the steps that you use to input any program that you're going to input. And so, you know, we've already done that with the pendulum swinging to the ready for question position. And that's just, for some people, that's going to be diagonally. For you folks who have it going back and forth and up and down. For us circle people, sometimes it'll just be away from us and to us. That's going to be the ready to question. And then you ask it, may I, can I, is it appropriate to establish or add dowsing conditions and agreements or programs which will be continually in effect until changed by me. So what you're really asking it to do is to take an input that's going to last just as long as you want it to. And did everybody get a yes?
Not sure.
Okay. All right, do you want me to say that again slower?
Yeah, please.
No, I'm reading it, but yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
May I, can I, is it appropriate to establish, change, or add dowsing conditions and agreements or programs which will be continually in effect until changed by me?
I'm
And then
still
wait till you
getting
get a
maybe.
yes.
I'm getting a maybe. I'm gonna try it again. Hang on.
It's okay. It's that oppositional defiance there.
Yeah, it's just the stubborn Irishman.
Oh, that's a definition of oppositional defiance.
Point. There we go. I got a yes. Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
So now
yes.
go to page 5 where it says primary program. And we can talk about this for a minute before we get into it, because I want you to know what you're asking your subconscious to do. So this program is going to cover all limits, controls, agreements, and dowsing responses. The purpose is to determine the amounts, the effects, the conditions, the circumstances, the influence, the times, the measurements, the distances, the numbers, percentages, and other requested areas of your dowsing. The communication support is to be restricted, and this is where we put a little protection around ourselves, restricted to my superconscious, spirit, my higher self, my awareness, my mind systems, my subconscious and related systems at all other levels of my total being, and their approved spirit guides, guardian angels, helpers, and others chosen by me or any of the above. So really what we're doing is we're limiting the input to only those entities, which keeps out anything that we may want to muck around with our answers, or even our own thoughts aren't included in this. So then influences, and here's where we define this further, and we say influences such as misleading thoughts, imaging, wishes, or any other conditions or methods by any source, physical or non-physical, of any kind, are not to take control of any of my systems or affect me adversely or cause incorrect dowsing answers without my permission. So again, we're putting up another layer of protection so that not only can only these entities answer, but anybody else can't. And then we define time as being in perceived time, which is, you know, clocks and minutes, at least for our purposes right now. Answers are to be selected from all available knowledge and information sources, limited, that come from those limited entities that we've agreed to. And then the method, and this is where you fill it in. Swinging to, in my case, it would be swinging to the right, or other agreed on methods or system indicates ready for question. Swinging or moving to yes or no, or other information indicating the most appropriate answer for the question asked, or other information, methods, or systems. Clockwise spin is for hold, indicating waiting, searching, or other agreed upon systems. That doesn't work for me, so I won't be using that one. And then it says, temporary changes may be made while dowsing, reverting back after use. So in other words, if you're dowsing a specific subject and you want to make changes to this, you can. And then program changes can be made anytime. Only using a 3-step system like we just did. So, and then the second part of that is, remember we discussed may I, can I, should I, or is it appropriate to? We'll define those for the dowsing system as well. So then once we read, what I'd like us to do is, we've gotten a yes for the programming. What I'd like you to do, we can either, I think what I'll do is go on mute and everybody can mute, and you can just go through this program yourself while your pendulum is spinning, yes. And don't worry about understanding it while you're reading it, because this is really not going into your conscious mind, it's going into your subconscious mind. And as much as your conscious mind understands what you're doing is safe and appropriate, I think that's all it really needs to know at this point. And the cool thing about the doing programming this way is you never have to do it again unless you want to change it. So this primary program is going to cover every time you pick up your pendulum and ask a question. Every time, every single time, no matter what the subject matter is, unless you change it. So it takes a lot of time out. So let's get our pendulums going. Let's ask it one more time. May I, can I, is it appropriate to program my pendulum at this time with the primary program? And once you get a yes, then we can go ahead and just do the primary program. Read it as quickly out loud as you want to while your pendulum is spinning. And then we'll come back online once we got that sorted. All right, did everybody get through that?
Yep.
Okay, good. One more final check. We're just going to ask the dowsing system. So let's get its inertia. Let's get it swinging a little bit. Are the conditions or changes acceptable as presented, being clear and non-contradictory, and open to change by my request? If you get a yes, then you're done with that portion of the programming.
Got a big yes.
Perfect. So we're done. So again, you're not programming the pendulum itself or the instrument, you're programming your subconscious to understand what you're asking of it. And again, for those of you who are mediums or do any remote viewing, you know that the subconscious speaks in symbols and it has its own language. And so if we tell it what we're looking for, it will do everything it can to try to adapt to what we've asked. And especially if we're clear, like we are in this case. So we have, let's see, we did the final check. And this 3-step system that they talk about is precisely this one. You ask it if it's appropriate, then you read in the program if you get a yes, and then you say the end of the program, and then you do a final check, and you can program in anything using those 3 steps. So when Letter to Robin talks about the 3 steps, those are the 3 steps. Okay, now
Can you say that
practice.
again?
The 3 steps of programming
Yeah,
are to ask if it's appropriate.
got it.
Is the first step, you know, may I, can I, is it appropriate? The
Right.
second step, if you get a yes, is to actually input the program like we just did, read the program.
Okay.
And then the third step is to check and make sure it was properly installed. And then, you know, say thank you, end of programming.
Thank you.
So that's as easy as it is. And there's some cool things you can program for, and we can talk about those at a different time. But there's a lot of alternative uses, if you will, for pendulums. So Letter to Robin asks you to just practice now. You've got your pendulum ready to go. Your pendulum's ready to go. Your subconscious is ready to go. So, you know, you can ask it questions, just really basic questions to practice, like, what is, you know, is my name Terrie? And yours will be no, but mine will be yes. And ask about yourself, because we'll talk about this in a minute, but you don't want to start like with anything else, any healing or any other, you don't want to start mucking around in someone else's energy without their permission. So practice with kind of easy things. 5 to 10 minutes. Is eating this banana going to make me healthier? If I skip lunch, will I feel weak later? You know, things that you can test. Is my mother going to call today? You know, am I going to hear from blank today? Just to kind of, and write down your answers just so you can keep track of your wins and your maybe need to do betters. And remember, when you do dowsing, you know, I didn't go into this too much because you guys are all always there. But when you do dowsing, make sure that you cleared your mind, you're cleared your emotion, come into the present moment for just a few seconds to get those alpha brain waves going so that you can build that alpha bridge into your subconscious so that your subconscious can then communicate with your conscious. So, you know, just take a few minutes to clear, and don't be hard on yourself. I mean, you could make, you know, if you get a wrong answer, the first thing that I always have to look at is, what's the question? You know, did I pose an appropriate question? And we'll talk about question posing in a minute. And then don't be hard on yourself. You're just learning. It's a new skill. And this is supposed to be a fun skill. This is supposed to be something that, you know, it just aids your psychic. You guys are already psychic. It's just another aid for your psychism and to help develop it and to get you some cool information. And then don't overthink. The conscious mind wants to overthink everything. And my conscious mind is like impermanent. This has got to be crap. This can't be working. But, you know, if I start to think that way, then it doesn't work. So you have to always keep yourself, you know, with an open mind, keep yourself open-minded. And always be in a mindfulness or an active meditation state when you start. Let's see, let me find there it is. Okay, so here's some tips. And this is on Letter to Robin, page 9. Whenever you're going to dowse, maintain detachment. There's nothing that will give you a wrong answer any more than wanting an answer. So in other words, am I going to win the lottery? I want that to happen. So it's probably going to reflect my desire to win the lottery in the answer instead of the true answer. So always try to maintain detachment. Try not to really care about the outcome. Protect yourself by programming and then maintaining your detachment. Again, if you ever get into doing healing, there's some people who love to do healing with dowsing because it's not their energy that's doing the healing, it's the dowsing energy. So they feel like they're protected, that the dowsing instrument itself is doing the healing. I don't know. I haven't thought much about that. I don't know if it's true or not. But, I've done healings and I don't feel like I've ever gotten any negative effects from them. So, I mean, I think it has a lot to do, again, with your intention and your belief system. Formulate the proper question. We'll talk about that in a minute. Always ask before you start. And I know, Kevin, you probably won't do this, but may I, can I, is it appropriate to ask about this subject matter, whatever it is? May I, can I, is it appropriate to ask about my health? May I, can I, is it appropriate to ask about my diet? May I, can I, is it appropriate to ask about, who's going to call me today? Whatever you're going to do. Don't douse anybody else without permission, because that's the quickest way to get into somebody else's karma and get your energies all entangled. And, I'm just going to really strongly say, just don't do it. You wouldn't heal someone without their permission. Even if you ask the permission of their higher self, you're still getting permission. So, just make sure to ask. And then this is right out of the book, but do not douse with improper intentions. So I would say douse always with proper intentions. And for me, those proper intentions are for the highest and best for everyone involved. That's the easiest way to do it. You can't medically diagnose anybody. Keep your mind open all the time, and keep dowsing simple and fun. It can be a lot of fun. Especially if you get a couple of people dowsing the same question at the same time. It's kind of like a dowsing circle. What'd you get? How to ask appropriate questions. So I told you we would get into question asking. And I can tell you, it's hard to ask appropriate questions. And part of the problem is the way if I speak to you and ask a question, you'll be able to sort it out. You'll be able to say, okay, she means this, and then she meant this, and she put them together. And I can see that. But for the pendulum itself, because it doesn't have a mind, and your subconscious is very, very literal. Think of your subconscious as a child below the age of maybe 6. They take everything so literally because they don't have the capacity to understand nuance. They're in their subconscious mind all the time. So they don't get sarcasm. They don't get, some of the things that we with our beta brain can get. So I'm on Letter to Robin, and I'm on page, if you want to follow along, I'll just tell you, I'm on page 7. And for asking questions, they have 3 rules there. The first one is be specific about what you want to know. This isn't the place to be third person. It isn't the place to kind of beat around the bush. It's important just to ask what, where, when, and who. And then maybe give it a little instructional information relating to the question. So assuming that I'm not going to eat until 6 o'clock tonight, is a banana my best choice to eat right now? Okay, and I just got to know on that question. So sometimes if I had just said, is a banana my best choice to eat right now, I could say yes, maybe you need some potassium. But if it's the only thing you're having until 6 o'clock, make another choice, is what that was saying. So rule number 2 is use words and phrases and conditions that you and the dowsing system both agree upon their meaning. And that is so important. And that's why we went through that programming. We wanted to understand that time was in local time, or time was in the units of time that we use. so that the subconscious is clear as to what you're asking it. And then finally, make the question a definite request for information that exists somewhere. It could be the War of 1812 you want to ask about. That information exists somewhere. It could be something that's going to happen in the future. That information exists somewhere, although subject to change. It does exist somewhere, at least in some universe. So make sure that you're asking for something, a fact, not an opinion. So an opinion is, do you think it's going to rain today? You know, that's a fact. Let's see. An opinion would be, do you think the Republican Party is better than the Democratic Party? You know, that's an opinion. And there's no definition for the word better. You know, what are we saying when we're asking if it's better? So to ask that question could be asked better is the Democratic Party as evil as the Republican Party says it is? No. Then you would have to define evil. So a lot of things go into these questions when you start talking, you know, about things that you have no idea about. So make sure you stick with facts and don't get confused, like I just did. So what they say is make the question a definite request for information that exists somewhere. Normally, don't ask for an opinion. If your question does involve an opinion of the past, present, or future, it must be compared to an agreed upon reference or conditions. So is the Democratic Party of today, does the Democratic Party of today have more money than the Democratic Party of 6 months ago? That would be a factual question that exists somewhere that you could ask, that kind of thing. So, and what Walt uses here in Letter to Robin is, he asks the question, are you strong? You know, am I strong? Well, what does strong mean? Is it spiritually, mentally, physically strong, emotionally strong? Am I wearing strong perfume? Do I smell strong? You know, I mean, you have to really clarify. So it'd be, am I strong enough to pick up my 75-pound dog Freckles? Okay, that would be an answer that it could answer because I gave it a reference. Let's see. And then he does something kind of clever, but it's really truthful. If you're sitting in a theater and you ask, how many feet are between me and the stage? It might give you a number, you know, an outlandish number, because there's 100 people there would be 200 feet, right? When in reality, you're asking, what's the distance between you and the stage? So paying attention to the question is extremely important whenever you're formulating. And I studied with a woman who would not ask a question unless she wrote it down first to make sure that it worked. Anybody who knows me knows I will never do that. But she also used to keep track of all of her yeses and nos. And she has quite a good track record. So that's another thing that if it was something that you would do, that might help you keep track of your record. So just in the last few minutes, the reason this whole dowsing thing came up is somebody sent this to me, and it's a healing book using meridians and dowsing. And some of you know I'm studying meridians with BioWell. And if you want to continue the series on dowsing, we certainly can, and we can talk about various uses of it. We can talk about, you know, using different tools, and we can also talk about healing with it. And I can send you, you know, I'll send you everything that I have in electrons if you're interested in learning about dowsing. But again, I didn't want to inundate you. Some things that you can do to kind of prove that dowsing works is, one thing that I thought was really cool that proved the whole thing to me was getting just a battery with a positive and a negative. And each of you try this if you get a chance, but put your finger on the positive and see what the dowsing, you know, while you're holding on to your pendulum, and see what your pendulum does. And then flip it over and put your finger on the neutral negative side and see what your pendulum does. And then lay it down and put it in the neutral middle and see what your pendulum does. And it's just an interesting way of following the energy, and it gives you an indication about how the pendulum follows the energy, and the energy coming from your subconscious. So it's really, really quite good. For there's more information if you want to, the American Society for Dowsers, ASD, they have, I think it's the website is www.asd.com. They've got a whole bunch of stuff online that you can look at, videos from the past trainings. And I think we do I've been attending their monthly training on, it covers a multitude of topics, you know, using dowsing for healing, using dowsing for finding water, using dowsing for lost objects. But they also go into some pretty quantum type healing that people are doing who belong to the society. So, you know, that's just another resource of what's going on out in the world with regard to people adapting the quantum to dowsing and other things. So we have a few minutes left. We have 8 minutes left. How about some questions? Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, Terry, thank you.
Oh, hi, Charlie. I did not even know you were on. You weren't on in the
Well,
beginning.
I was off and on. I was having a lot of difficulty with 2 laptops working or not working. I was on
Oh,
half the time, but thank you for reminding me. You know, I dowsed a little bit many years ago, and one of the things I dowsed for an electrical engineering friend, I had a sewage leak in my new home. And we dowsed, and that he showed me how to make dowsing rods, and we found where the leak was. And I thought, wow, that is pretty cool. In later years, I visited Arnold Michael, our founder of the Madonna Ministry. I asked him how he verified, how he got. So he pulled out a dowsing tool, and he said, this is from putting information into the newsletter. I want to verify it. He used a dowser, and he showed me how it worked. So I'm a little bit acquainted. But the thing is, I wonder, since this is timely topic, maybe it could be used at the board meeting today to answer some questions. And the other thing I wanted to know, did I hear you say you can't use it about into the future?
no, you can. You can use it into the future. You just have to make sure that your questions are factual, or give it a parameter, you know, like I did with my eating example. If I eat this banana, knowing that I'm not going to eat until 6 o'clock is the parameter. Is this banana, you know, good for me at this time? It's a silly
Yeah.
question, but it's the only one I can come up with right now. And so, yeah, so you either have to give it a parameter. So like in the future, compared to the stock market today, I mean, you could do the stock market compared to the stock market today, on July 28th, 3000 or 2032, is the stock market going to be higher or lower? You know, something like that. You can do that. And then you might be able to get into numbers from that point.
Yeah.
But do
And
you
will
use
I
it for the
be,
future?
yeah, and will I be alive to get that answer?
Yeah. Will there be a world?
Yeah. Well, thank
Yeah.
you for your presentation. You're always so well prepared.
I try not to ask questions about myself. Because
Well, you certainly have an
I
interest,
don't think I can get the bias
right?
out of my question. And that's the one thing we have to concentrate with questions, is that we remove as much bias as we may have. You know, I may dislike the politician I'm asking, but I want to put that dislike aside to get a accurate answer. I don't want it to answer because I wanted to answer that.
So one thing you can do with that, Kevin, is when you're done, after you got your answer, ask the pendulum, did my own opinions interfere with that question?
Okay, I'll do that.
And if you get a yes, then you can ask it how much. You know, did it interfere more than 50%, more than 80%, less than 20%? You know, you can do it that way to try to find out how much you were affected or you affected the answer. And it's a good thing to do when I do remote viewings. I always, it's kind of a crazy thing, maybe a little OCD, but I always ask, did I get at least 80% of the information correct that I came back with? And, you know, it just kind of gives me a comfortable feeling that, yes, I did. And if it comes back no, I'm like, oh, then I go back to the drawing board and try to figure out what I missed. So yeah, you can always verify. And Charlie's thing about the board meeting is great. You know, can we, will 80% of the board, or will the Madonna ministry be benefited by this action? And by benefited, you have to define what benefited is. Benefited means if this is what you want, increase in revenue, increase in people, increase in outreach, improve the message, you know, however you want benefit to be. But that's, yeah, that's perfect, Char. Thank you.
Terry, I have a world peace grid that's all crystals and it has all the religions of the world. And there's a crystal on each one, and then there's a large crystal in the middle. And I hold the pendulum over the crystal in the middle, and it immediately starts circling until it gets large enough to circle all of the outside crystals and all of the religions
See
of the
that?
world.
That's cool. What does that signify for you?
Pardon?
What does that signify for you, the fact that
there.
it's circling?
It makes me feel like I'm adding to praying for world peace.
So you're making everyone come together.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's your intention. That's what's happening. Definitely.
And I also use my pendulum when I do Reiki to find out if people's chakras are open or closed. I have a circular motion for if their chakras open or if it's closed. And if it's still closed at the end of the session, then I'll use a bowl or do more Reiki on that particular chakra.
So that sounds like you've programmed your pendulum to show you opened and closed. Perfect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. All right. Well, it's good to see all you folks I didn't see earlier. Thank you for coming on. Thank you everyone for listening. And if it's okay, we'll do another session next week on a different aspect. Is that all right? Not next week, next month on a different aspect, if that's okay. Okay, cool.
Great.
Sure, wonderful.
And if you have any questions on in the interim, shoot me an email and I'll do my best to try to find them. Yeah, everybody brought their doggies. Nice. I have mine right here. Mine is right
Oh,
here
nice.
sleeping.
Katrina, I loved when the cat just sat on your shoulder. Like, there's my perch.
Yeah, she's like a parrot.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Terry. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
thanks, Terry.
thank
That
We're
you
was-
going to
so
use
much
it in
for-
our board meeting.
Yeah, let me know how that comes out. That's going to be so cool.
Yep.
It was so,
I think
it
next
was so
next
good
time we'll
seeing your face.
Yeah.
good seeing yours too. Next time we'll talk about charts. Maybe we'll work a little bit more with charts and see if we can. So maybe for the next one, I mean, if you have a book of charts like I do from the from the old days, it's called Pendulum Charts by Dale Olson. I don't think that you need it, but it's kind of cool. It's got a lot of stuff in it. But I think, yeah, this is a very old one. So, yeah, or take one of the charts out, A Letter to Robin. I think there's one on the back page. And just print that out and we can use it next week or draw it. Okay.
So,
right.
Terry, would you send some of the information that you said you'd send out to my email address?
Sure.
Thank you.
Charlie's13 at Gmail.
It's Charlie, Charlie S.
1-3.
213@gmail.com. Thank you.
Okay. All right. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Enjoy your meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so out of here. Bye now.
Laura, would you like to end with the bowls or are you prepared?
I'm in the other room now.
Okay.
I was in there in the beginning and then I came back out here.
Okay. Would anyone like to do a ritual ceremony or prayer to end?
Thank
And
you
then
all.
the
Yeah,
board-
I'll do.
Okay, and the board meeting will start at half past the hour, so we all have a chance to go grab a bite or whatever, based on our time of day. Go ahead, Char.
Charlie, a prayer?
Oh, who's doing the prayer?
I thought you were.
I am? Okay. I get out my pendulum and see if I'm doing it right.
There you go.
Okay, thank you, Father, Mother, God, for the coming together and the gracious sharing that we have and the illuminating to our awareness greater possibilities, and for the expansion of our consciousness, and for the joy of living. We have come together in the sharing and caring with one another, and so it is.
So it is. Thank you.